Hey, how's it going? I've been hearing from Go Natural English learners like you that listening skills in English are the biggest problem. Maybe it's because in your traditional English class, you weren't able to learn listening skills. You focused on grammar, reading, writing. But now that you're in the real world and you want to understand native speakers speaking English, you really need listening skills. Do you find it difficult to understand movies in English without subtitles? Or is it impossible to understand the news in English? How about when you listen to conversations between native speakers and you want to join in, but you don't know what they're talking about, or you're just not sure? Have you ever felt like that? If you said yes, I'm going to share tips that will help you improve your listening skills. I want to share the best tips with you so that you can feel confident in your fluency in English, especially your listening skills, because they're so important.
As a native English speaker, my students are always asking me, Gabby, are you speaking at a normal speed? Are you speaking slowly when you teach us English? Well, the answer is yes and no. In this video lesson, I'm going to share how you can improve your speaking and listening skills by doing some exercises and showing you examples of how native speakers speak more clearly sometimes and more unclearly and faster other times. So you're going to really see how different sentences and questions can change depending on the way that someone is speaking and why they change. So I think this is going to be super interesting for you. So native speakers have this way of speaking that is different than your textbook. It's different than your English teacher may have spoken in the classroom to you. A lot of you tell me, Gabby, it's very clear the way that you speak in your videos. I can understand you 100%, and that's wonderful. But when you go out into the world or you watch TV or movies, other native English speakers are more difficult to understand. So why is that? Well, native speakers will speak with linking, which is when sounds blur together when we speak quickly. We also have connecting sounds, sounds that change when we have certain sounds back to back. The whole sound of the word can change. The sound of the sentence can change. Depending on the stress we use in a sentence, the way we say it will change. And I'll show you some examples. Also, native English speakers might use more slang, more phrasal verbs than you're used to in your classroom or with academic English. We speak more casually, and depending on how casual we are or how lazy we're feeling, we might really relax our tongues and the way we speak. So it may become less and less clear depending on the situation. Native English speakers also have different regional dialects. And so if you learned, let's say, a standard American English, but then you go to the deep South, let's say to Texas or Alabama, and you listen to people talking who are from that place and have never left that place and have a pretty strong accent themselves, it may be difficult to understand what they're saying, even though they're native English speakers. So there are a lot of factors at play here. Now, we can lament how difficult it is to understand native English speakers. We can complain about it. Why do native speakers speak in a way that's so unclear and difficult to understand? And it really makes communication more difficult for all of us. But the fact is, native English speakers are not going to change. And so if we just sit around and complain, we're not going to get anywhere. So if we want to improve our communication, improve our listening comprehension, and improve our speaking so that we're understood by other native English speakers, then we need to change, we need to improve, we need to learn what it means to speak more like a native speaker. So I'm going to share some examples with you here, and I'm going to also explain why and how these sentences change when we speak more quickly and more casually. A lot of English learners feel scared when they hear English that sounds totally different than what you learned in the classroom or what you listen to on audio tapes or audiobooks for learning English. But don't worry. It's just because you're not used to hearing this kind of fast, maybe different kind of accents in English. Regional accents are real and they can be difficult. So the key here is to immerse yourself, to get more input and more practice using English with native speakers with different dialects. It takes time, so be patient. You can do this. You really have the ability to understand anyone. It just takes time. Even for native speakers, it can be difficult to understand other native speakers who use a different accent, who are from a different region than ourselves. And how do you know how to speak more like a native speaker? Well, the key is to pay attention to stress, and the rest falls into place. Pay attention to verbs and keywords, content words like nouns and verbs, and other words like prepositions and articles, which are function words, kind of fall into place around these key content words. I'll show you how. First, practice listening to each sentence I say, and then we're going to practice repeating it together. Can you understand what I'm saying when I speak quickly? What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? Well, I'm asking you, what do you want to drink? But when a native speaker speaks quickly, what happens here? We stress the question word, what, and we stress the verbs a bit, want and drink, and everything else becomes smaller, faster, and it's more difficult to hear. So let's just say the question word and the verbs. What, want, drink. Now imagine that we're going to say those, but with the function words, do, you, and to, okay? What do you want to drink? Okay, repeat after me. What do you want to drink? Again, what do you want to drink? Now let's put it all together. What do you wanna drink? What just happened? Well, now we have connected speech. What do you becomes what do you when we speak more casually. When we speed things up, we're not actually speeding up our rate of speech. It's still the same speed. What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? What do you wanna drink? What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? It's not faster, but it sounds faster because we're omitting some of those sounds that you hear when we speak very clearly. So our connected speech happens when we relax our speaking muscles, our tongue, our lips, and these sounds change because we're not putting as much effort into our enunciation. So one more time, very relaxed and with connected speech. Repeat after me. What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? One more time. What do you want to drink? Sometimes people will drop that final K sound off the end of the question. What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? Now, I'm not completely omitting the sound, but it's not completely released. At the end of the question, my tongue is in place in my mouth to make that K sound at the end of the question. Drink. What do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? But I'm not quite releasing it. It's not really normal to say, what do you want to drink? What do you want to drink? But the amount that we release the K sound just depends on the speaker and the situation. What do you want to drink? I want to drink a cup of coffee. I want to drink a cup of coffee. I want to drink a cup of coffee. Can you understand what I'm saying? Well, you might be able to guess that I want to drink a cup of coffee, but I don't always speak so clearly when I want to drink a cup of coffee. So what happens here? Again, the key words, the verbs and the key content word like coffee are stressed. They're clear, they're loud, and they're enunciated. They're longer as well. So the rest of the words fall into place around them. I want to drink a cup of coffee. I want to drink a cup of coffee. Now, if we relax even more, it changes to I wanna drink a cup of coffee. I wanna drink a cup of coffee. I wanna drink a cup of coffee. Notice that the subject, I, is not stressed. I don't say I wanna drink a cup of coffee. I say, I wanna drink a cup of coffee. We could stress I in the beginning if there was some reason, like, well, you don't want to drink a cup of coffee, but I want to drink a cup of coffee. I'm differentiating between what you want and what I want. But this is a special case. So in most normal situations, I would just say, I want a cup of coffee. I want a cup of coffee. I want a cup of coffee. Repeat after me. I want a cup of coffee. I want a cup of coffee. Very good. Let's listen for another example. Can you tell what I'm saying? I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. You can probably pick out the most important word in the sentence at the end, which is money, because there's really no other word around it except for the, which is a function word that kind of disappears, but you can still hear the word money even if you don't hear the article before this noun. I'll send you. I'll send you. I'll send you the money. So you can probably hear the word send. That is a verb that sticks out. We stress the verb because the verb and the noun money they are the most important points in this sentence. The rest falls into place around our key words. I will send you the money. But I would never say it like that unless I was being very dramatic. Maybe if you said, what did you say? I will send you the money. Okay, in a normal way, I would say, I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. Try it with me. I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. Rhythm is really important in English because we stress these keywords, and the stressed words become like a beat in the song of English. I'll send you the money. I'll send you the money. Let's try another question. Can you tell what I'm saying? How can I live without you? How can I live without you? How can I live without you? All right, well, this is from a song. How can I live without you? So the keywords here, you may have been able to hear them. The question word, how. How can I live without you? How? Live without you. So this is kind of an interesting question because without does get stressed. Without you, without you, without you. Do you see what happens between without and you? We don't differentiate the T and the Y sound when we're speaking quickly. It actually joins together to become ch. Without you becomes without you, without you, without you. Why does that happen? Because the T sound in your mouth, where your tongue is behind your teeth, t, 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 and the Y sound, y, are quite close in your mouth, without you. When you move your tongue from the T sound to the Y sound in your mouth, it makes a new sound. Ch, without you, without you, without you. How can I live without you? How can I live without you? The other words that are not the question, the verb, or the final without you become smaller. Can I becomes can I? Can I? How can I live without you? How can I live without you? Again, how can I live without you? Let's do one more example, then I'm going to give you a listening quiz. I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. Can you understand what I'm saying? I need to figure this out. So we have our keywords here. need, and figure. Figure out is a phrasal verb, and we do stress the preposition out. We stress the preposition in phrasal verbs only. Any other prepositions, when they're not part of a phrasal verb, are not stressed. But I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. We do stress that out. We stress the verb figure also, but a little bit less than the preposition. I need to figure this out. So we don't stress the subject, I. We just say, I need to figure. I need to. We don't say to. This preposition is very small. I need to. I need to. Repeat after me. I need to. I need to. I need to figure this out. What happens with out? It is stressed, but we don't release that final T. We put our tongue in place to create that T sound, but we don't release it. I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. But when we speak quickly, we say, I need to figure this out. How to improve your English listening and speaking skills. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to share several examples of how to improve your English listening skills, how to improve your English speaking skills, and why it's easy to understand your English teacher, but difficult to understand other native English speakers. I'm thrilled to be able to share some of the things that you don't typically learn in an English class as we dive deeper into linguistics, things like connection and linking between words, word stress, phrase stress, and why when you hear a native speaker, it sounds like they're talking so quickly. Okay, let me explain. So why is it difficult to understand native English speakers, yet you can understand most of what I say and most of what your English teacher or tutor says? Well, the basic reason is that I'm speaking very clearly. I'm enunciating my words and I'm not being lazy or casual with my pronunciation. You might also notice that it's easier to understand native speakers when they're giving a speech or when they're in a professional situation, maybe presenting at a conference or leading a more formal meeting. Native speakers tend to speak more clearly and more professionally, enunciating each word clearly. However, when we're in a more casual situation, we tend to get a little lazy with our pronunciation and just do what's easy. So instead of saying, like when I go to a Starbucks, can I have a coffee? I would probably be a little more casual because if I say each word very clearly like that, they would probably think there's something wrong either with them or with me, or maybe I'm angry. Because when you enunciate each word very clearly in a casual situation, it can actually come across as angry. I would be more likely to say, can I get a cup of coffee? Can I get a cup of coffee? Can I get a cup of coffee? Now, that's actually not that much faster, although it sounds fast, right? Can I get a cup of coffee? 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 It's basically the same length of time, duration that it takes me to say each phrase. But what happens is that I'm linking the sounds between each word. So it doesn't just sound like individual words in a string. Can I get a cup of coffee? What happens is I stress the key words. Can I get a cup of coffee? Can I get a cup of coffee? Can I get a cup of coffee? So get and coffee are our strongest, most stressed keywords in this question. Can I get a cup of coffee? 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 Get a cup of coffee. So basically what's happening is native speakers are stressing keywords. Did you ever learn about how to stress phrase level on the phrase level in English and make some keywords stronger or longer than others? This is really important to sounding more fluent.
So I'm going to share some more examples with you, words that sound different when we use proper phrase level stress. Words like, for example, should have. Should and have, as you probably know, can contract into should have. So if I'm talking about a regret, something I should have done but I didn't, I would say should have. However, when we speak faster, more casually, it sounds like shoulda, shoulda. I shoulda done something differently instead of should have. So first we have should have, that contracts into should have, and then what people actually say is shoulda. I shoulda asked for sugar with my coffee, but I forgot. I shoulda asked for sugar. Shoulda asked for sugar. Shoulda asked for sugar. That's kind of a tongue twister, isn't it? Okay, so shoulda is a way that natives say should have. Can you say it? With these examples, I would like you to repeat after me to practice your speaking as well. Shoulda. I shoulda asked for sugar. I shoulda asked for sugar. Now, let's ask ourselves which words are stressed. Should is stressed and have is not. And that is why it becomes shoulda, because the have becomes so small when we stress should that it just gets smaller and smaller from have to should we can also apply this to would have and could have. Would have becomes would have when we contract, and when we speak with linking sounds and stress could, then have becomes very small and it becomes coulda. I coulda asked for sugar. What about would have? Would have becomes would have, and that becomes woulda. I woulda asked for sugar if I had remembered, but I didn't. Can you practice with me out loud? Let's practice these shoulda, coulda, woulda. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Let's try it with a sentence again. I shoulda asked for sugar. I coulda asked for sugar. I woulda asked for sugar. Let's take the sentence, I want to get what do I want to get? How about a dog? I want to get a dog, a pet dog. That's even better. I want to get a pet dog. That is so clear, so easy to understand, right? That's the way that your English teacher would probably always say this sentence, but a native speaker is not going to say it this way. They're going to say, I want to get a pet dog. I want to get a pet dog. I want to becomes I wanna. I wanna. I wanna get a becomes getta. Getta. I wanna get a. I wanna get a. I wanna get a. It sounds like one big word, doesn't it? Even though it's 4 words. I want to get, 5 words. I wanna get a. I wanna get a. And we don't say I, we say I wanna get a. I wanna get a. I wanna get a. Pet dog becomes pet dog. Pet dog. It almost sounds like one word, even though it's 2. Pet dog. I want to get a pet dog. I want to get a pet dog. I want to get a pet dog. Can you say it with me? I want to get a pet dog. Can you see what happens when we stress some words like want? Then the words next to it become very weak. So I becomes want becomes want, and then two, I want to. Two becomes I wanna. Get a becomes getta. Get is stronger than so it kind of like just absorbs into it. I wanna getta. But what happens with the T and the D? They kind of like absorb into each other and combined into pet dog. Pet dog. Pet dog. Let's try it together again. Full sentence. I want to get a pet dog. I want to get a pet dog. I want to get a pet dog. Let me share one more with you. Let's talk about I have to, because this is really interesting to me, because you have to can also be expressed as I've got to, I have got to, or I got to. It's really not proper, but people say this all the time. So for example, I have to go to the store. I could say, I have got to go to the store, or I got to go to the store. Look, again, it's not proper. I can already imagine the comments coming in. Why are you teaching it this way? Well, I never said I was teaching proper Queen's English. I'm only teaching the way that natives speak so that you can understand it. But I don't really recommend saying I got to do something. But, it depends on the situation, on the circumstance. So let's start with I have to. I have to go to the store. I have to. Have to becomes have to because have is stressed and to is a little small preposition that is not stressed. I have to go to the. I have to go to the. Go is stressed and to is a preposition, teeny tiny word, doesn't get stressed. And the is an article that does not get stressed either. I have to go to the. I have to go to the. I have to go to the. Do a neck thing. I have to go to the store. Okay, very good. How about I have to get for example, I have to get a pet dog. Let's use the same example. I have to get a pet dog. I have to get a pet dog. You're doing great. Just remember, there's a flow, there's a stress. These stressed words are like beats in a song. I have to get a pet dog. 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 Okay? A pet dog. We stress dog here. I have to get a pet dog. Like I mentioned, some people might say, I got to get instead of I have to. I gotta, or I've gotta would be a little bit more proper. I've gotta get a pet dog. I've gotta get a pet dog. So again, just to summarize, these are 3 examples, but this happens all the time in English with many, many different words in different sentences. The important thing to take away is that phrase level stress is important, and certain words like verbs or objects are stressed more than prepositions or articles or pronouns. So keep that in mind. You want to put an emphasis on your main verb. You want to put an emphasis on an object. You want to put an emphasis on anything that's really important in your sentence. That will help you to minimize the other words. And remember to minimize those prepositions, minimize the articles so that they kind of get absorbed into the verb or the object, like we practiced in those sentences. I want to share 5 of the top tips that will help you immediately to improve your English listening skills. I know that this is one of the hardest parts of becoming fluent in English, is being able to understand native speakers, but not anymore. I'm here to help you. So let's get right into it. The first of our 5 secrets is a surprise, perhaps. It is mindset. You see, we can approach a situation with a positive or a negative mindset, a can do or a cannot do mindset. If you approach an English conversation with a negative mindset, telling yourself things that are untrue, like I'm bad at English, or I'll never understand what they're going to say, or I'm so embarrassed, this is awful, I want to run away, then I'm afraid to say, but you probably won't do very well. However, if you turn that around, flip it on its head 180 degrees, and you approach an English conversation with a positive mindset, thinking things like, I can do this. I can understand native English speakers. I'm patient. I'm relaxed. I can get this. I am a good English speaker. then chances are you will understand much more and you will do so much better in that situation. So please begin with a can do attitude. Approach every opportunity to use English, to listen to English, with a positive mindset. I believe in you. I believe you can do it. Now I need you to believe in you too. Approach English with a positive mindset. The second secret is to listen, speak, and read in order to improve your listening skills in English. You see, improving your listening skills really requires using other skills as well, like reading and speaking. You'll learn a lot faster if you use more than one skill to help you develop your listening. It's kind of like cross training for a sport. If you enjoy playing soccer, for example, or football as they call it in the rest of the world, we call it soccer in the United States, you, of course, are going to practice soccer. You're going to practice so that you can become better. But what if you want to improve different muscles? Your coach might recommend that you try some other exercises besides soccer drills. Your coach might recommend that you try some swimming or weightlifting or running to improve your endurance and your capabilities on the field. So that's what we're doing with different skills in English to improve your listening. I want you to consider using your reading skills to improve your listening. Here's how. I want you to use materials like this video where you can listen and read to the same material, like you're reading the subtitles, right? So you could do this with the news, with movies, with anything that has audio and text that's the same. So you could start by listening only to challenge yourself. Then you could listen and read the subtitles at the same time to confirm what you're hearing and to train your ear while you're seeing the words. Great. So listening only first, then listening and reading together. And the third word I mentioned, the third skill, was to speak. So when you're listening to a material, the next step is to actually repeat what you hear. When you repeat immediately after what you hear, this is a technique called shadowing or mimicking. As soon as you hear a word, you say it out loud, and it helps to say it loud with feeling so that you can feel some action and emotion in your words. This will help you to remember the sounds. So when you actually can produce the sound, it's more likely that you'll be able to hear it because you'll be paying very close attention to that sound so that you can say it. So again, listen, read, and speak. Listen first, then listen and read, then listen, read, and speak. The third secret is diversity. It's so important to include a good mix of listening materials into your English practice. Now, diversity can mean many things. Let's start with the length of the material you're listening to. I would suggest to begin with shorter materials, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That way you don't get too tired. Then you could try longer materials, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Then TV shows that are 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour long, and then full movies that are an hour, 2 hours, or even longer. That way you can mix in different lengths of materials so that you don't get too tired. Or when you're ready for a challenge, you can try longer materials. Diversity also means a wide array of voices. Try listening to both men and women speak English, people of different ages, people who do different jobs or are talking about different topics. Now, this is another kind of diversity. It's very important to train your ear by listening to different topics, listening to different people talk about different subjects. So if you are already very well versed in art, then it will be easier for you to listen in English about art. If you want a challenge, try listening to something in English about science or business or something completely different than what you would usually listen to. The fourth secret is to guess first. When you're listening in English, the best thing that you can do is to try to anticipate what you're going to hear based on the situation. So we know in certain contexts what people are likely to say. Let's say that I am waiting at a bus station. It's likely that the man who just spoke to me is asking me for the time, or perhaps if I know something about the bus schedule, right? What about in another situation? If you're at a cafe, maybe if you're ordering a coffee, it's likely that the person at the register will ask you how you like your coffee, right? So don't be caught off guard as if everything in English is an unexpected surprise that you're not ready for. You are ready for it. Just use your common sense and try to guess first, then confirm with your ears whether you are correct. Our fifth and final secret is to understand the big idea in English. English, like other languages, like your native language, has patterns. We have certain conversational patterns in small talk and exchanging information and ideas. Now, it's important to understand how conversations usually go from the beginning of a conversation to the end. Pay attention to key vocabulary words and listen to the function words. This is something that I talk about in my full course, The 17 Secrets to Native English Listening Skills. How you can listen to stress patterns to figure out the most important information in a conversation and to understand the main idea, even if you didn't catch all of the smaller function words that aren't as important. This is the most important thing when you're listening to English is to try to catch the main idea, and then you can ask questions to clarify. These are the 5 secrets that will help you to immediately improve your English listening skills. First of all, approach English with a positive mindset. Second, listen, read, and speak to improve your listening skills. Third, remember to include lots of diversity in your listening materials. Fourth, watch for patterns and try to guess based on the context of a conversation what you're going to hear. So try to predict the future of the conversation you're in. And fifth, understand the big picture and the main idea. I hope that these 5 secrets help you. In fact, I know that they will. A lot of you have told me that your biggest difficulty in English is listening. So I want to help you, and I've made this video lesson to show you 6 of the most misunderstood words, or the most difficult to listen to and to hear to understand. Okay? Let's start with these words to my left. Can and can't. It's a big difference between I can do it and I can't do it. But it's difficult to hear the difference sometimes. Even for native speakers, it can be difficult. Why? Because the T at the end of can't often becomes very weak when we have another verb after it. Like I just said, I can't do it. Okay, I can't do it. The T, when we have, let me grab my marker, when we have D right after it, blends together Okay, so the T from can't and the D from do almost sound like one sound. So all of a sudden, you're not sure if I'm saying I can do it or I can't do it. I can do it, I can't do it. Very, very slight difference. That's why this one is difficult to hear. But here's a tip. There's another difference between can and can't, and that's the vowel sound. We have exactly the same letter, A, but it sounds different. Can, it almost sounds like an E, right? Eh, can, I can do it. And here we have I can't. I can't do it. All right, so that's a little exaggerated, but if you can tune your ears, if you can practice listening to this difference, you'll soon notice that it is there. So now you have two ways to distinguish between can and can't, the vowel sound and also trying to catch the T sound if possible. All right? Let's look at the next two words that are difficult to hear. Walk and work. Walk, work. There's a big difference between I walk in the street and I work in the street. You wouldn't want someone to misunderstand that. So let's look at the difference. Walk, work. All right, this is confusing because of the way these words are spelled. We have an L in this verb, but we don't say walk, I walk in the street. No. That's why English is so weird, because you don't hear the L. You just hear ah. I walk. I walk. Okay? It's the same sound as that kind of Chinese pan that you use to cook food called a wok. I cook with a wok. All right? It's kind of like a skillet, a pan. You see them in Chinese restaurants. They're really big. Anyway, the point is this sounds like an O, wok. Oh. This is the famous English sound that you hear so often. Sounds like a pirate is talking. All right? Nice sound, right? Work. It sounds like ER, work. Great. So the difference between these two words has nothing to do with the L and the R. I don't want you to fixate on the L. It has more to do with the vowel sound, okay? Ah and walk, work. Good. Last two words that are difficult to hear, thought and taught. These are minimal pairs, and the only difference is the TH or the T sound. This is a difficult sound for some learners in English because it doesn't exist in a lot of languages. Thought. Thoughts. You actually have to stick out your tongue between your teeth. That might feel a little strange, but that's the way you do it. The vowels, even though here we have an O-U-G-H and here we have an A-U-G-H, are exactly the same sound. That's why you can't rely on spelling to help you with listening or reading to help you with listening. Thought and taught. All right, it's a big difference if I say, I thought about it, or I taught about it. I thought about English. I taught about English. Very different meaning. All right. So again, can, can't, walk, work, thought, taught. These are 6 of the most difficult to hear and most difficult to actually say. So listening and speaking go together quite closely. In this video, I want to share 5 of the strategies or secrets for improving your listening skills. So let's get right to it. Number 1, your mindset. The way that you think, whether it's positive or negative, makes a huge difference in your abilities to take action or to understand what you're hearing. So if you go into a situation with a negative mindset, trust me, you won't do as well and you won't feel as confident. If you go into a situation with a positive mindset, yes, I can do it. I am able to understand what I hear in English. I do have the skills and I have the motivation to improve my skills. I see myself improving every day. These are the kinds of phrases, these are the kinds of ideas that I want for you to have in your mind as you approach situations in English where you want to understand what you hear. So, my first tip is to start with a positive mindset. I believe you can do it. You can understand what you hear in English. And I'm here to help you so that you can even improve even more and build your confidence so that you can interact with success in any English speaking conversation. All right, that's why we're here. Let's take a look at the second strategy. Listen, read, speak. When you listen, it's very helpful if you can use other activities to develop your listening skill. I would compare this to cross training for a sport. Let's say you want to be really good at soccer, right? In the rest of the world, football. But in the US, we call it soccer. So you might play a lot of soccer to get good at soccer. Of course, that's obvious, right? But some people will encourage you to cross train. Maybe try a different sport that would increase your endurance or your breathing, your lung capacity. Maybe you'd want to try swimming. It's a totally different sport, but it should help your overall physical capabilities. So I recommend finding materials where you can listen and read them. So this video is a material that you can listen to and you can read the subtitles, right? So you could start by listening only, don't read the subtitles. And then the second time that you watch the video, you can listen and read. So pay attention to the subtitles. Other materials you could use include my podcast project, All Ears English. You could use the Voice of America news. They often have listening and reading that you can do together. All right. The third is speak. So what I want you to try with this video or with my podcast is to first listen, then listen and read, then try a speaking technique that's called shadowing. I have another video that describes how to shadow, but I'll quickly describe it here. What you do is you listen, and as soon as you can possibly repeat what you hear, I want you to say it. Okay? So you're going to be mimicking what you hear as fast as you can right after you hear it. All right? So in these three ways, you're going to develop your listening skills because reading will help you identify the connection between what you hear and what you read. Okay. And speaking, well, if you can say a sound, you'll be able to hear it better. I hope that makes sense. But trust me that this kind of cross training will really help your listening skills. Next, diversity. I encourage you to listen to a diverse set of materials. Try some listening materials that are short, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And then as you advance, try materials that are longer, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a full movie of an hour or two. So a diversity of length of materials, and shorter length materials are better for repeating over and over. If you have a 3-minute video, you could repeat that 5 times and you've still only studied for 15 minutes. So it's very easy to do. Another point about diversity is I encourage you to begin listening to materials that are interesting to you, that fit within your interests. So if you're interested in soccer, listen to material about soccer or listen to an actual soccer game with English sportscasters or announcers. But I want you to push yourself to go outside of your interests and listen to a diverse range of materials. Okay, if you are an artist I want you to find science materials to listen to. You could listen to the NPR radio, that's the National Public Radio, or the BBC radio, the British Broadcasting, what is C? Channel, I think. Uh, there you're going to find topics on science, technology, business, health, all different kinds of topics that you can explore to listen to a diverse range of materials. Why should you do this? Because of vocabulary. I want you to be familiar with a wide range of vocabulary. So again, begin with topics that motivate you, that you're really interested in. But when you're ready for a challenge, try materials that you wouldn't naturally be drawn to. Maybe something in a different field or a different topic than you would usually choose. And that will keep things fresh. That will challenge you. Okay? Next, guess first. Why would you guess first? We want to be sure. We want to have concrete 100% confidence in what we're hearing, right? Well, actually, no. I want you to guess what you think you're going to hear based on the situation or the materials that you expect. So let's say you are listening to one of my video lessons. I want you to look at the title first and take 3 seconds to guess what you are going to hear in that video. This activates your brain and you start thinking about vocabulary that you can expect. And that way, that vocabulary is fresh in your mind and your brain doesn't have to work so hard to dig it up. So before you enter a conversation at a specific event or a specific place with a certain person, I want you to guess, what do you think that person might want to talk about? That will help you to be prepared mentally for that conversation or for the material, like my videos. Last point, understand the big ideas. What I mean by this is I want to help you to understand what's special about the structure of English and the way that we speak. What are the patterns? If we can start to identify the patterns of English, then when you want to understand a specific conversation, a specific phrase, or a specific word, you're going to be able to place that within the framework or the structure of English. And you'll be able to organize these new learnings much more easily. You'll have a place to put all the new ideas, the new vocabulary, and the new phrases. So the first thing that I want you to think about is the big picture or the framework of English. And in my course, I describe this in more detail. But what I mean is we have to get used to things like the rhythm of English, how we chunk phrases together. And sometimes it has nothing to do with punctuation, like periods or commas, although sometimes it does. We have to get used to the stress that we put on certain parts of a phrase, the stress that we put on certain syllables in a word. We have to get used to how in English we have key content words and we have weaker function words. I'll explain all this in my full course. We have to get used to also the sounds that we're going to hear within the words that maybe you don't have in your native language, like the TH sounds or the R or the L or maybe the P or the B sounds. I know in other languages these may not exist. So this is what I call getting used to the big picture or understanding the big picture so that you have a framework to understand how English is special. And when you learn new ideas or new words, you can organize all of these things in your brain. And when we organize, it helps us to remember. All right. So these are 5 secrets for listening success. A lot of you have written to me and told me that your biggest challenge in English is listening. I know it can be difficult to understand native English speakers when we speak quickly. So I made this video to help you out. I want to share with you the three biggest mistakes that you may be making when you're listening to English. All right, so let's get started with number one right here. Listening is not the same as reading. This may seem obvious, but the way that we often learn English in school, the way you may have learned English, is with a focus on reading and writing for academic purposes. Maybe in high school, you had to read in English, but maybe you didn't have as much listening practice in English, or you didn't know how to approach listening. The way our mind works is with reading, we are visual learners. We're looking at the text on a page in a book, and we're associating the letters and the words and these shapes that we see on the page, which are letters, we associate those with meaning. When you listen to English, it's a completely different process. We hear sounds, words, phrases, and we need to associate those sounds with meaning. This is especially difficult in English because the way that we write words, the way that we spell is crazy. It's just crazy. We have silent letters, we have diphthongs, we have words that come from other languages, and pronunciation varies widely. So remember not to listen the same way that you read. Okay. Number two, translating. It takes a lot of effort to translate. Okay. When you hear words in English, do you automatically try to translate them into your native language? You might do this because, of course, you're familiar with and comfortable with your native language, and you want to make sense of English. You want to understand, so you naturally try to translate it into your first language so that you can understand what's going on. But translating actually is a waste of time. I'll tell you why. You're putting a lot of effort into converting the meaning of a word into your native language and then converting your thoughts back to English. In that time, you're not hearing the words that are being spoken while you're translating, and you're not able to focus on the person you're speaking with. So your mind is wasting a lot of energy trying to translate the words that you hear in English into your native language and then back to English so that you can add to the conversation. Now, another reason why you shouldn't translate is that when you get past basic words, when you get into phrases, idioms, metaphors, and some cultural ideas or words that really only exist in English, they are difficult, if not impossible, to translate correctly in other languages. So I encourage you to listen and match what you hear with meaning directly. Cut out the middleman, cut out the translator. And number three, the biggest mistake that you may be making is expecting to understand 100%. Don't be a perfectionist. It's impossible. Even native speakers with good hearing don't catch 100% of what we hear. It's normal. Aim for 60 to 80% understanding of what you're listening to. Okay. Stay calm, stay relaxed, and it will become easier to listen to English and understand what you're hearing. I've made a full course with 17 secrets to improving your listening skills in English. So I'm going to talk more about these points and also share 17 strategies for improving your listening today. Also, the course includes 5 practice session videos so that you can not only understand the strategies, but use them. This course is available on my website, gonaturaleNglish.com, and it's called The 17 Secrets to Improving Your English Listening Skills. So I hope that you'll come take a look because I want to help you develop your listening skills for more confidence when you're engaging in English conversation, more confidence when you talk to people at work, at school, in your personal activities. So I know that this is a big need, and that's why I'm addressing it. So come on over, take a look at the course, and I hope to see you there in the course with me. I am there to help you not only through videos, but through question and answer. You can ask me a question during the course about any of the videos or any listening questions that you may have. So guys, I'm a real person. I'm not just on video. I exist behind the screen and I'm here to help you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the 17 secrets to improving your English listening skills. Bye for now.